Hello, and welcome to the News in a Hurry for March 22nd, 2013.
I'm Travis Volker, and this is my co-host William, Social Stingray Welch.
A catastrophic threat is what Sally Davies, Chief Medical Officer for England, is calling it. She explains the dangers of antibiotic-resistant superbugs and is calling for research in that area. Sally points to MRSA, a superbug that is responsible for 19,000 deaths in the United States annually, far more deaths than HIV and AIDS.
In Maryland, a man dies of rabies that he contracted from his donated kidney. The donor was diagnosed with encephalitis from an unidentified source, but his organs were not tested for rabies. 3 other recipients of this donor's organs are alive and being preemptively treated for rabies.
Spiders that set traps and prey on bats are nearly everywhere, according to a new study. Originally thought only to inhabit the most tropical countries, this more exhaustive study has revealed that these bat-eating arachnids are found on every continent except Antarctica.
Astronomers are preparing for an unprecedented comet flyby later this year. The comet will make its closest approach to the Sun in late November. As it does so, it has the possibility of shining as brightly as the Moon and may even be visible in the daytime sky. This event is notable not only for the comet's expected brightness, but also for the amount of lead time scientists have to prepare, which is allowing a team of experts at NASA to organize a viewing campaign.
New research shows that the ratio of carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus ingested by plankton during photosynthesis is not constant. Plankton near the equator consume approximately 30% more carbon than plankton in the polar regions. This research is significant because plankton account for half of all photosynthetic activity on Earth.
How is gold created? A recent study draws a connection between fluid vaporization caused by seismic activity and the formation of gold-enriched quartz veins. When fluid-filled cavities expand, a flash vaporization of the fluid occurs, which causes silica and trace minerals to combine and form gold.
University of Tulsa scientists in Oklahoma have conducted a study which determined that swallows have evolved shorter wings for greater maneuverability to avoid cars. The group studied cliff swallows that live near a road. The number of swallows killed by cars has declined over the past 3 decades, despite an increase in population. In examining birds that have been killed by cars when compared to other members of the species, the scientists found that the birds who were able to avoid cars had shorter wingspans, which enabled them to turn more quickly in flight.
Stingrays are generally solitary animals that roam over a wide area and typically avoid each other. But the presence of almost 1 million tourists a year and their food supplies at Stingray City has changed that. These behavioral changes have allowed over 160 stingrays to group together in less than a square quarter mile. Additionally, they now breed year-round as opposed to sticking to their normal mating season. Researchers are worried about the long-term effects to the ecosystem due to the behavioral changes, but there is some hope because the rays seem to revert to their old habits in the absence of the tourists.
Microbial life seems to be flourishing at the bottom of the Marineris Trench. At a depth of 7 miles, the bottom of the trench was long thought to be too barren and inhospitable for life. Now it seems that the walls of the trench act as a funnel, which guides dead plant and animal matter down to the bottom, providing sustenance for the microbes.
Disney is instating a new age restriction on their theme parks nationwide. Children under the age of 14 have to be accompanied by an adult starting March 23rd.
Misdemeanor car crash perpetrator and actress Lindsay Lohan will spend 90 days locked down at a rehabilitation facility as part of a plea deal she accepted. She will avoid jail time if she complies with the conditions of her plea deal, which include 30 days of community labor, 18 months of psychological therapy, a fine, and restitution to the victim.
Google Drive recently had a few hiccups which caused it to be inaccessible for a large number of users. The cause of the problem is unclear, but Google managed to resolve it within a few hours.
Fingerprint unlocking is expected to be an option on the new iPhone 5S. Other companies are working on technologies like voice and face recognition for phone unlocking. The hopes are that these new authentication methods will replace passwords and be more secure.
Chrysler is notifying owners of the 2013 Dodge Challenger with the 3.6-liter engine of a potential fire hazard. It seems a short circuit in a wiring harness can cause overheating and lead to a fire. The automaker said owners should not park their car in or near structures as the fire can occur even when the vehicle is off.
Pinterest, the popular social networking site, said they will begin rolling out their new design to the rest of its users starting Monday. The new look has been in testing since January. The company says that the new look comes with some enhancements to improve performance and reliability.
Third time is absolutely not the charm for Carnival Cruise Line, whose 3rd cruise ship in the past month is ruining vacations due to mechanical issues. The Carnival Legend developed propulsion system issues and had to skip a port in Grand Cayman as it slowly limped towards its home port, Tampa. Carnival Dream flew passengers home when it got stuck at St. Martin last week, and Carnival Triumph had to be towed to port when a fire broke out in the engine bay a month ago.
A 6-year-old rescued from the partially iced-over Big Sioux River in South Dakota lives, but his 2 rescuers are missing after they dove in to save him. One of the rescuers was identified as the boy's 16-year-old sister. There is an ongoing effort to recover the 2 missing people.
Guilty on charges of rape is the verdict for 2 Ohio school football players who took advantage of a 16-year-old girl after she passed out from intoxication. The boys texted graphic photos of the crime as it occurred to fellow classmates. Some of the photos and details of the crime quickly spread through social media channels. One of the perpetrators is sentenced to at least 1 year in juvenile detention and the other at least 2 years. They can be held, though, until age 21.
The Supreme Court ruled that you can sell books here which you lawfully purchased overseas. The case in question involved a former USC student from Taiwan who purchased his textbooks from his own country, where they are cheaper, and then sold them to fellow students here in the United States. Until now, copyright holders have had the right to prevent the import of materials sold abroad. With this ruling, that may no longer be the case.
Lululemon Athletica is recalling a batch of their black yoga pants because the material is too sheer and can be seen through. The company is working with manufacturers in Vietnam and Taiwan to determine what the cause of the issue is.
7 Marines are dead and many more are injured as a result of a 60mm mortar round exploding in its firing tube. The explosion occurred during a training exercise at Nevada's Hawthorne Army Depot. An investigation of the cause of the deadly explosion is underway, and the use of 60mm mortars is suspended pending the investigation's findings.
After being sentenced to 3 life sentences for his Chardon High School shooting where he killed 3 and injured 3 others, T.J. Lane, who was outfitted in a t-shirt with the word killer sprawled across the chest in Sharpie, brandished his middle finger and said, "F all of you," to the victim's family sitting in the courtroom.
Colorado's Executive Director of Corrections, Tom Clements, was shot dead while answering the door of his home for the assailant. No suspects or motives are known at this time. Robbery does not appear to be the motive. Clements' murder comes a week after he denied a Saudi national the opportunity to serve the remainder of his Colorado prison sentence in Saudi Arabia.
Republican Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey was not invited to the Conservative Political Action Conference for decisions he made over the past year. El Cardenas, chairman of the American Conservative Union, said, "Hopefully next year he's back on the right track of being a conservative."
President Obama is set to visit Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu soon. Iran's nuclear program and a timeline for developing a nuclear bomb will be the keynote. Prime Minister Netanyahu continues to threaten military action as Iran nears the nuclear red line. President Obama believes Iran is about a year out from acquiring such a weapon, and that there is time for a diplomatic resolution, which will be more lasting than a military one.
In a measure to counter North Korea's nuclear threats, the United States is deploying 14 new ground-based missile interceptors in Alaska, according to Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel. This addition will boost the U.S. missile defense capability by 50%. The new missile interceptors will be fully deployed by 2017.
6 Indian men from a local tribe in India are being held on suspicion of the rape of a Swiss tourist. The woman and her husband were bicycling to see the Taj Mahal and camped in the woods. A group of men beat the husband with sticks and then tied him up and assaulted his wife in front of him. The men also stole the couple's valuables, including a laptop and cell phone. The computer and phone were recovered from one of the men arrested.
In Somalia, a car bomb that was apparently targeting a truck full of government officials instead hit a civilian car and then caused a bus to catch fire. 7 people were killed and 10 were wounded in the attack. No one immediately claimed responsibility.
A series of explosions at a bus park in Kano, Nigeria, killed at least 25 people on Monday. Several buses were destroyed. They were mostly carrying immigrants from the largely Christian South. Boko Haram, a sect which frequently attacks the city and often targets Christians, is suspected.
South Korea is the victim of a major hacking attack. Leading broadcast companies and banks were hit with a cyber attack that put malicious software on their network, rendering them incapable of communicating. The source of the attack is unclear. However, North Korea is suspected given the heightened tensions between the two countries.
And that's all for your News in a Hurry. You can find our show notes in the description if you'd like to learn more about a story.
To suggest a story, you can find our email below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the News in a Hurry.